Alrighty, hello there, folks. How you doing? Some of you may have been expecting me, obviously, because I said earlier on my channel with Sharon Sunshine, our Indie States and Sharon Sunshiny, our little channel that we have, where we go live on Sunday mornings and we just have a chat about things. Right now, we're in a series of talking about unsolved mysteries, the new series that they've just rebooted, and so we're talking about the new season of it. And we're going episode by episode every Sunday. So we're in the middle of that. When we're done with it, when we've completed it, the entire first season, I will then go and get those recordings and I'll upload them over here, obviously, because it's interesting stuff talking about those episodes. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today, we're here to talk about Outcry, which you guys can find on Showtime. A very, very compelling show. A show that, again, clearly shows how the prosecutors and investigators get it wrong, and it shows the same things over and over again that they're doing. And what's even worse about it here is as I watch this thing, the police chief, just that guy is such an idiot. Even if he's a pretty smart guy, and a lot of this was calculated, he's an idiot. Oh my God. I just was completely disgusted with him. What was his name? Mannix. Police Chief Mannix. That guy, just unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. He said he looked into it and he couldn't see anything wrong with what had been done in the investigation or whatever. And it's like, excuse me, what? What the hell were you looking at? Because Daly, the investigator in this, just literally didn't do his job. And so there's a lot to go through here, a lot of things to talk about. This was recommended me by Mr. Travis Williamson about a week and a half ago or so, I think. And I wanted to watch it, but I didn't have Showtime, so I was in a kind of a quandary of what I wanted to do, how I was going to solve that problem. And while I was still trying to figure that out, I was talking to Tracy Keogh just the other night, and she brought it up and said, have I seen it? And you should watch it and everything. As I was telling her about my trip to Wisconsin and what we're looking to do in Madison with an awareness rally for Brendan, Stephen, Eagle Nation, and Michael Funk, and even Ricky Hochstetler. I also have plans to do a little kind of documentary while I'm there that I'll be filming. And I'll be talking to a lot of victims there in Wisconsin. I do have Debbie Hochstetler's number. I'm going to reach out to her and talk to her and see if she would like to be a part of it, because I obviously feel she has been victimized by the state of Wisconsin. I mean, all she ever really wanted was closure with what happened to her son, and she ended up finding out guys like Link were lying to her, and just some really, really tragic stuff. So I may talk to her. Anyways, there's a whole big thing going on at the end of October that I'm going to be doing there. Well, I'll be there for a little over a week. And we'll be doing some rallies for Eagle Nation. We'll be, rolling that over into one day in the week in Madison, out by the Capitol building and that sort of thing. All the while, the whole week filming my own little mini film while I'm there. So, hi, CTM Fangirl. Hey, Jerome. Hey, Bridget. Hello, Linda. Hi, Cherie. Travis here? Oh, Travis is here. Hey, Travis. Well, I don't know. Okay, well, maybe Travis will want to join me at some point. I texted him earlier, and he didn't get back to me. But here he is. He's definitely tuned in, so maybe that means he didn't want to be on camera today. So, all right. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about Outcry on Showtime. Very interesting thing. Now, something you guys heard me say recently in another video when I was talking about Ricky Kidd over on the Truth Seeker Project, Sandra Lean's channel, YouTube channel. He was over there recently, and he was talking about how as important it is for us to point it out when DAs and stuff are getting it wrong and doing it wrong, and it's clearly wrong, that we're calling that out. He also points out, like I have before, like when I covered the Pink Gun mystery, whatever, when I covered that with James Farron, prosecutor James Farron, and what he did there. So Ricky was talking about that. Anyways, I was talking about it recently, and I tell you folks that in this documentary, you're gonna see one of those prosecutors. You're gonna like him. He's a good guy. He's seeking justice and truth, and I love it. His name is Sean Dick. He's great guy, and seriously, it's because of him that this was able to be worked out, that it was able to be looked at and looked at honestly, and it was able to get worked out in a large part because of him being open to looking into it honestly and objectively, which he did. And like I say, my hat's off to Sean Dick, because he is the kind of prosecutor I want. He is the kind of prosecutor I want where I live. He's the kind of prosecutor we should all want where we live, in my opinion. Oh, Travis, you're in a... Oh, sorry, buddy. No worries then. I didn't realize I've been working on remodeling a kitchen, knocking down walls and building new walls and installing cabinets. So I've been pretty busy all day, so I'm out of the loop a little bit on that. So yeah, Sean Dick, please go to Wisconsin, right? Yeah, right? Seriously. But we'd have to get him elected. So we'd have to take a page from Bryson's playbook, right? Bryson is the gentleman who somewhat early on after Greg Kelly's conviction, that he ended up becoming very vocal and took up the cause and became very vocal about it. And it was a large part due to Mr. Bryson that Sean Dick ended up getting elected into the DA's office there. And so that's, obviously very interesting. So we might have to take a page from his playbook, and we just got to do the same thing in Wisconsin and in Manitowoc and stuff like that, right? That's what we got to do, right? So Bryson reminded me of you. Oh, well, I'm touched. Hey, look, Bryson clearly has done a lot more than I have. I'm hoping to change that in October. I'm hoping to become a lot more hands-on in October. So hopefully I will be taking a page from Bryson's playbook at that point. But I'm flattered and honored that you thought of me when you saw Bryson. Really, I am. Travis knows everyone in that documentary, and he's actually in it for a couple seconds. But yeah, he knows everybody in there. He knows Mr. Dick, and that sort of thing. So, maybe Travis and I can arrange to have a chat with somebody at some point. Who knows? That's not a guarantee by any means, but maybe. So, well, thank you, TTM fangirl. Thank you so much. I'm really flattered. So, as it goes, you have this case now. So I don't know how to kind of maybe go about this, but you come into episode 1, and they're telling you about what is it called, the Lanners. It's the little town there, football team that Greg Kelly plays for. Now, Greg Kelly is going places. He is very much going places. He is he's a very good football player. He's big and strong and fast, and he's just head and shoulders above his other peers on the field in a lot of ways. And he's clearly headed for pretty great things. He's already got a full ride to a college his senior year when all of this stuff begins to happen. Now, where do we start with this? I guess let me just tell you guys what happened. What essentially happened, but the details are a little bit fuzzy because the investigators really did screw up in this case. Okay. Greg's senior year, he is living in the little town where he plays football at the high school and everything. And, as I've said, he's very successful. He's about to move on to college after his senior year. He's already got a full ride to a college. Ultimately, he wants to be a Longhorn. So I imagine he was probably going to that college for 2 years and then was going to transfer to Texas University, where home of the Longhorns. That was his goal. But anyways, so he wanted to stay for his senior year at the high school where he had been, but his parents were moving. There was, I believe it was a job opportunity that they had to move for, and he didn't want to have to uproot for his senior year and go somewhere else and all that sort of thing. He wanted to finish out with the team that he had started with, essentially, right? And that, dude, I feel him. I do feel him on that. I would feel the same way. In fact, I was a football player, folks. I played in an all-star game my senior year. That's basically in a kind of a pretty large chunk of Southern California. I was picked as an offensive lineman, as a center, to play in that game. So I mean, I understand the whole football thing, and I understand how he wanted to stay. I just want to say that right off the bat. I totally get that. However, having said how much I understand it and probably would have done it myself, looking at what happened here, hindsight being 2020, had he gone with his parents, he probably would have been very good. He probably would have, it would have been better for him. He may not have had a stellar senior year at whatever school he ended up going to. He probably still would have been a star on whatever team he played on, but he wouldn't have been a part of the program. He wouldn't have been as effective and impressive as he would have been at the high school that he had been at. But here's the thing: even if he'd gone to another high school and just had been a bit of a shining star for 1 year, his senior year at another high school, he already had the full scholarship to the university. He would have showed up to college. He would have started working hard, and he would have become a star player there. I can honestly tell you, I think, Greg, it wouldn't be, I'll put it this way. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Greg could make the NFL someday. And I say could because literally he just finally was given his life back, because he was living in a legal limbo for 2.5 years, a bit like Michael Peterson in The Staircase, because they just had him in legal limbo while the Court of Criminal Appeals was deciding whether or not he was actually innocent after he had been declared actually innocent by the judge who heard his writ. Whew, okay, so there's a lot to go through, right? Anyway, so that judge that heard his writ, so they're waiting on that and everything. So for 2.5 years, he was in like a legal limbo. So literally just like this year in February, he got exonerated. He finally marries his girlfriend who stuck with him since high school. Oh, amazing. This girl has stood by him since high school, and even with all the things that the jail, everything, all that, she stood by him. It's amazing. But when he was finally exonerated, then they showed that just in February of this year, him and her are getting married. You know what I mean? So this guy's life was on hold, but literally it's just starting for him. And he's already been working out with other NFL players at a gym where he lives, basically. Down there in Texas, there was a gym that he was going to, and he was actually working out with other football players and like MLB players, guys that were training intensely to try to improve their game. And he was hanging with them. He was showing up early. Okay? That was what impressed the hell out of the guy whose gym it is, the owner of the gym. It completely blew him away when he saw that after the first day that number one, Greg hung with it. He hung with the entire workout. The second day, he was on time. He wasn't late. He was on time. Hung with the workout again. He said he was basically he's alluding to the fact that it blew his freaking doors off when on the third day, Greg was there 30 minutes early and eager. I mean, that tells you right there that Greg is a football player. He's got that mentality. He's got that drive and that ambition, and he's willing to work hard for it. So, hey, look, I do hope Greg may someday find his NFL dream, but it's going to start with college. He wants to become a Longhorn. He is right now enrolled at Texas Longhorn University, but he's waiting for the tryouts to become a walk-on. So, and I'll tell you what the guy from the gym said. He goes, number one, these are the problems that Greg's facing. He goes, number one, he needs to get exonerated. Can't go to Texas University and as a criminal, basically a parolee or whatever, basically somebody that's been in prison who hasn't been exonerated. He was saying then he has to get accepted at Texas Longhorn University. Then he has to agree for them to let him do a walk-on tryout. He goes, but if he gets to the walk-on, this is what he said too. It was really, really funny the way he said it. He goes, but if he gets past all of those things, if he actually gets on the field for the tryout, I have no doubt he's going to make the team. I was laughing my ass off when I heard him say that. He was like, oh, yeah, if he gets through all that other stuff, all that red tape, and he gets to actually show up on the field and show his stuff, no way he's going to be totally in. There's no way that they're going to pass on him. And I just thought that was hilarious. So, let's see. So his dad was in a nursing home. Yes, that's another thing and it's why I love so much Rosa Kelly at the end when she tells off the city council of Cedar Park. And she talks about how Greg's dad had been hanging on, and they'd been checking every Wednesday morning. They'd been checking when the Court of Criminal Appeals would do what they call their drop, and they would basically all the cases would become listed in the Texas, the place like where we go to check on the Avery case, but for Texas, right? And they were checking that every Wednesday morning at 9:00, and his dad was there too. And his dad ended up dying of the stroke before the day came that they got the news on a Wednesday morning that his relief had been granted. It's a heartbreaking story. And she sits there and tells it, and she's just like telling these jerks, these people in suits that just look smug and like they don't give a crap, and she is just getting in their face and telling them this. And it was just like, I was just like, I love you. I mean, Rosa Kelly is just awesome. I love her. She just totally impressed me, and the way she got in their face was just awesome. So, okay, so let's get back to this, right? Travis is reminding me where we need to go with the story here. So that whole story of what a great football player he is and all that, that's something of what you need to know about this. However, okay, so back to the point that he wanted to complete his high school career over at the university the high school where he started. So his friend, Mr. McCarty, Jonathan McCarty, his mom, what's her name again? They call her Flamma, was it? She convinces Greg's mom that no, Greg should come and live with us and everything, so he can finish out his high school, career here and that sort of thing. And so she convinces her, and Greg wants to, obviously, because Greg wants to finish his high school career at the same college. Sharma. There you go, Sharma. And he wants to finish his career there at the same high school. And so it all gets agreed. Okay? Now, so Greg moves in there, and he's living there and that sort of stuff, right? Okay. A daycare is also being run out of Sharma's house. Okay? So she has little kids there. What ends up happening is one kid does, and this is how the show gets its name, one kid does what's called an outcry. And that is basically claiming that some kind of sexual misconduct, assaults, impropriety took place, right? Whichever of those three words you want to use, right? So it's saying that took place. What then happens is they in Texas, and kudos, by the way, Travis, I was very impressed to see that the moment that happened, he's taken over to a forensic interviewer, somebody like Zelma, who you guys have seen here on my channel previously. She was just on with me recently when we were talking to Dr. Leo. Anyways, that's the kind of she's one of those forensic interviewers. So I will say that's a bit impressive, but obviously it is a 4-year-old, so it's a little different than a 16-year-old. So who knows? But like I say, I was impressed with that. I thought that was the right way to handle it, to say the least. So you have one kid that comes forward and makes an outcry, and then in the forensic interview with him, the kid's naming Greg, and he's saying things like Greg put his pee-pee in my mouth, and he's saying these very damning things about Greg. But I remember as I was listening to him, the kid, in the interview, and I heard him talking about, he first says Greg put his pee-pee in my mouth, and he says it like nonchalant, like not at all, like it's like he's playing a game, talking like he's playing a game, which I'm not criticizing the kid, folks. I am not criticizing this child at all. I'm just pointing out something about it that strikes me in a certain way, that I believe this kid may have been exposed to something. But whether or not it was Greg or not is the thing that I'm not sure. Well, I'm basically certainly not sure by the end of watching Outcry. By the end of watching Outcry, I have more of a clear idea in my head of what I think probably happened. But who knows if we'll ever see charges come from this on the person that is now basically the prime suspect. But so the kid makes an outcry, they interview, he says these things. Now, what was interesting about it to me is the kid said, number one, he said, Greg put his pee-pee in my mouth. And she said, oh, he did? The forensic interviewer is just trying to nonchalantly keep the child kind of talking without giving the child much direction, which is good. And the child ends up going on to say some things that I thought were odd, because he said, Greg has a big pee-pee. Greg's pee-pee is bigger than mine. And then he goes on to say, I want to be a big construction worker one day. Like he's associating being a big construction worker maybe with having a larger pee-pee. It's a very weird thing, but it kind of suggested to me as I was watching, I'm like, well, this kid seems like he's getting into somewhere close to fantasy, really close to mentioning Greg's name. So that was one red flag that kind of went up for me as I was watching it. The interview in the first episode and stuff, just like literally right off the bat, it was like a red flag that went up for me. I was kind of like, that's an odd thing to say. But, I want to believe the kid, or at least I am fully committed to wanting to be absolutely certain whether the kid is, was or wasn't. I mean, for me, you want to be very, very certain about that, and it can be problematic with kids, because they even show in this show, they go and talk to this lady who is very experienced with this, and how kids can say false things in interviews and how that happens. And she's actually researched it with other people in her field, and they looked into the McMartin preschool thing, and they identified all the problems there of what was happening there, and they were identifying that a lot of the kids there were making outlandish claims, a bunch of outlandish claims, and so it was hard to sort the truth from the reality. And so that's part of the problem with kids, when kids are making accusations, because we learned that in the Innocence Files, remember, right? With the little girl that was talking to what was his name, Uncle Bunky, right? And the things that little girl was saying that were that clearly ended up being wrong. And even that little girl, as she got older and looked back on it, felt she shouldn't have been making those statements back then, right? Anyways, so we know that that's a known thing. And so my it was just, to me, it was something I noticed. It was something that sent up a red flag for me. But obviously I was like, oh my God, this poor kid. You know, what did happen to this poor kid? So what ends up happening is the police come, whatever, they don't actually come. They don't, I mean, the police hardly do anything. The lead detective never even goes to the house, from what I understand, and never talks to the guy who was actually there the day that this supposedly happened, which was Jonathan McCarty, who was actually, you know, it's actually, he was actually there that particular day. They never talked to him. All that. I mean, the investigation is literally non-existent. They literally showed up, listened to whatever the parents of the child said and what the child said, and then just, that's it. They didn't really even, I mean, a crime scene tech team, I think, went over to the house and took some pictures, but they never really investigated it. And that comes out in the course of this show. That comes out. And it's very fascinating, folks. And there's so many things that you just end up just going, you gotta be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me that these things were taking place. I mean, it's just another one where you're just this one's fascinating, folks. But like I said, it's got the good guys too, like Sean Dick. Sean Dick's definitely one of the good guys. 4-year-olds do tell elaborate stories and crazy stories and stuff. I mean, that's why this is so, strange. But let's talk about that victim's advocate. I don't remember her name. I'm very sorry to her that I don't remember her name, but I will say one thing about her. She appears in the documentary. She identifies as a victim's advocate, and she offers opinion about Greg Kelly and the case and that sort of thing. Well, her main mantra is, I believe the victims, right? Which is noble. I have nothing against her for wanting that and choosing to feel that way. I can understand. I fully do. However, can I just say to this young lady, you say you believe the victims. And if you do, then how do you reconcile victim 2? Who, number 1, recants his statements in court, and number 2, we find out later that Detective, what's his name? Detective Daly actually came into that interview and took the place of the forensic interviewer and basically led the child, fed the child a story. Sound familiar, folks? By the way, folks, I will be using the situation with the second accuser in this case to draw a parallel to Holtzclaw. So that will be coming. I already have a clip pulled from Outcry. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to do a lot of editing to insert still shots because I don't want to encroach on Showtime's copyright. But I intend to show a clip where you guys are going to see a very, very clear parallel to Holtzclaw in terms of seeking of victims, seeking of accusers. But to get back to what I wanted to say about the victim's advocate is, if you truly say you believe the victims, then you should have been in a quandary. Because if you believe victim 1, then what do you do about victim 2? And if you believe victim 2, then what about victim 1? So listen, I understand this girl's dilemma, and I understand her desire to want to believe the victims. But you can't when both victims in court have a different story, one claims Greg didn't do anything, and the other one claims that he did. You have a kind of a conundrum there, don't you? Which one do you believe? The one that goes along with your confirmation bias about Greg Kelly? Right. That's the one you believe, right? You see? So don't tell me you believe the victims when you only believe one, the one you want to believe. Okay? And that was what I had to say about her. And the other thing I had to say about her, and the same problem for Chief Mannix over at Cedar Park Police Department. The other thing I had to say about her is just like Gilters in the Avery case. And the way they say we were duped by a documentary and da-da-da-da-da, right? And the way they diminish us like that, right? Even at times go as far as to call us a cult, right? And this girl, this advocate, this victim's advocate, and Chief Mannix at the Cedar Park PD both said the same thing about Greg Kelly's supporters, that they were like a cult. Even though the evidence was coming out in favor of Greg. So this documentary, again, showcases another instance. I was talking to Travis earlier, and Travis was trying to say that this was all prosecutorial, but I gotta say I disagree. This was investigational as well. The investigator here was a crock of shit, and he shouldn't still be policing anything anywhere. I don't think he could police his way out of a paper sack, or detective or investigate his way out of a paper sack. So I think there's issues on that end here too. But yes, in the prosecutor's office, this thing was a freaking mess as well, because they weren't seeking truth either. And they were allowing this detective to get away with just, whoa. And like I said, I'll show you that in the video I do where I draw the parallel with Holtzclaw. You're going to see exactly what I'm referring to. Okay. What do we move on to next? Well, he was convicted of what's called super aggravated assault, or super. Anyway, it had super attached to it, and it meant exactly what TTM Fangirl is talking about there. About it carried a 25-year sentence at a minimum, and then you can't, and there's no appeal. So you can't, there's no chance of getting out early on appeal. I mean, parole. There's no chance of getting out early on parole. So you just literally have to sit for whatever your time is. Now, just because 25 is the minimum doesn't mean that's what the sentence will be. But Greg was, in this case, he was only sentenced to 25 years and that sort of thing. So anyway, go back up here and catch some of Travis's comments. So that's the crooks. In the U.S., we allow an exception to confrontation and sexual assault of a child. So do we allow the prosecutor of someone when the victim is 4. The law used to be many, many years ago that you couldn't prosecute someone if the alleged victim is below a certain age. Ooh, that's a little bit wild. First, he makes an outcry to his mom. Mom knows Austin PD officer. She calls him. What do we do? He tells her to report to the police. She reports to Cedar Park Police. They arrange for a forensic interview. Yeah, we should have Zelma watch Outcry. It is all prosecutorial. DA's office had investigators that investigated. Yeah, but Daly, I mean, well, like I said, Travis feels that way. I feel that, I guess Travis is saying that because the prosecutors allowed the investigator to do what he did, that I guess he feels this all falls at the feet of the prosecutors. I disagree. I feel that Daly is somewhat culpable. Oh man, I needed that. Okay, let's move on to Patricia Cummings. Oh, my Lord. In the first episode, you actually like Patricia. In the first episode, maybe halfway through the second, you actually like her. You think, she fought for Greg, and you actually maybe think you like her. Until Greg gets his new lawyer, and the new lawyer is trying to file the writ to a writ of actual innocence claim, and everything. And when she's getting called into court on an ineffective assistance of counsel claim, okay, instead of falling on her sword, as we've seen Travis described many, many times, as we saw Dean and Jerry kind of in this case, where they accepted that they probably should have hired these experts, it would have helped their case and everything, right? So in the way that they did that, well, not Patricia Cummings. Oh, no. The moment an ineffective assistance of counsel claim is coming her way, she is now wanting to go on the offensive. She shows up to court a half an hour early the day she's meant to testify, and she's having a special hearing with the judge that the defense can't even be a part of. And so what the defense attorney gets afterward is basically this thing telling him that if you put me on the stand and go with this ineffective assistance of counsel claims or whatever, then this is what I'm going to say about your client. And she basically had this whole thing about where she basically now believed that Greg was guilty. And she was going to throw Greg under the bus if they were going to continue with the ineffective assistance of counsel. Dude, I was just like, what? Then you find out later, because you're wondering, like, what was going on with her? Why the hell wouldn't she have been uncovering these things and presenting these things in court? And then you find out, because these things looked bad for Jonathan McCarty, Sharma's son. And so she was Sharma's lawyer. She actually says she would describe that they were friends or kind of close as client and whatever. And at the time, and that they talked fairly often and stuff. And so she had been representing the other sons in the family, some of the older sons. And one of them she represented over lewd acts. I kid you not. So that it ended up being determined that she had a conflict of interest. So Greg ends up winning the ineffective assistance of counsel claim. Number one with the judge that first heard it, and then eventually, a long time later, with the Court of Appeals, they eventually found the same way. It's crazy, and she was I just couldn't believe it. Watching her, it was all about her. It was all about protecting herself. In fact, there's an interesting part in Outcry, folks, where they show her and the state, what they call the state's attorney, basically the attorney that ends up arguing most often in front of like the criminal court of appeals or that sort of stuff, right? And another person where they were arguing that when a writ is granted by a judge, that it should no longer have to go the extra step of going to the criminal court of appeals, which is exactly what Greg Kelly was facing after the judge in his hearing granted that his due process had been violated and there was ineffective assistance of counsel, and when those two things were granted, okay, I'm just trying to explain here that about a year or two before that, Patricia Cummings and these two other lawyers were trying to remove that second step where it had to go before the court of appeal, where it had to go to the criminal court of appeals and be basically ratified by the criminal court of appeals. So they were trying to remove that step. But as soon as this happened with Greg Kelly, the ineffective assistance of counsel claim against her and stuff, she was suddenly no longer about that. It's like she flipped just like that. Texas Rangers seems to be after the truth, like that part. Yeah, it would maybe seem so, but I don't know. Some of the things he did were a little bit odd to me, but whatever the case, it appears he's going after the truth. I'm not real impressed with what he found about Greg, where he would, and especially when they found out that they called adult friend finder. See, this is the thing where I don't know about that Texas Ranger, because they ended up calling a adult friend finder and checking if those accounts had ever existed, and adult friend finder ended up telling them no. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah. So Trisha Cummings was the head of the CIU of Dallas and now is in the CIU of Philadelphia. She has assisted in freeing. I think you got manipulated on that. You have to read the amicus brief. Opinion of the Court of Criminal Appeals. I have no idea what Travis is talking about, folks, but at the end of the outcry, you find out that the Court of Criminal Appeals, well, whatever, then the documentary lied. So, okay. Whatever the case, corruption in the Justice Department is being learned more and more. Why this happens is because one part of the system sticks up for another part of the system with no remorse for the innocent. Exactly like what's happening on the Cedar Park City Council. But this is all a prosecutorial thing. So can't be their fault either. So I guess, it can't be their fault. It can only be the prosecutor's fault, apparently. So see you later, Mose. So you move on to things like, well, it turns out that Jonathan McCarty ends up that, a lot of things about it, but it ends up, it looks more like something he might have done. Well, it ends up turning out eventually he ends up raping a girl. And, that girl is in this documentary too. I got to say my hat's off to her. I understand why she didn't go for the jugular on Mr. McCarty. I imagine it would have been very painful for her and long and drawn out in court, and she would have been under attack, and it would have been very public and in the media. And I can imagine she wanted to avoid that, but she avoided that, but she also got what was necessary. That in terms of in the legal system, it is now recognized what he did, that he did something wrong, and that people now know who Jonathan McCarty is and what he's about, and that he has done these things. And people now, can form an opinion of, wait, these two guys looked exactly alike. And they do. They put pictures of them at the time when this all happened, picture of Jonathan next to a picture of Greg. And literally, facially, they look almost like identical twins. It's uncanny, to be perfectly honest. And so when you have this situation going on, and this, the one gentleman has gone on to become a bit of a rapist, you know what I mean? It's like it just continue. It adds further doubt to the conviction of Greg Kelly to begin with. So that's where it's at. Is McCarty where a construction worker came from? See, I don't know. I'm honestly, Bridget, I am not sure where that whole construction worker thing comes from. I don't know if maybe his dad, maybe his dad is a guy who has a lot of bravado and talks about that kind of stuff. Maybe he's like a macho man, and maybe that's where this kid maybe picks that up from. I'm really not sure. That's my best guess, but all I can say is it's just a guess. It's all it is a guess. But it just struck me as odd the way the kid said that. The documentary isn't the whole story, folks. Here, sorry, let me just put Captain Obvious's statement up here. So pay attention to Travis, folks. He isn't wrong. corruption in the Justice Department is being learned more and more. I agree. Why this happens is because one part of the system sticks up for the other part of the system with no remorse for the innocent. Absolutely right. So you end up going on in this thing, and it's just bizarre. I mean, it's a bizarre thing, but ultimately, in the end, there's really, in the end, you end up feeling like the right kid was never even looked at. Jonathan was never even interviewed. Jonathan McCarty was just never even interviewed. And the girl that eventually got raped by him, she's mad. She is very angry with the Cedar Parks Police Department and the prosecutors in this case, because had they done their job correctly, she might not have been raped. And so she has a serious bone to pick with them. And there's a brilliant clip where she starts talking towards the end of the documentary, where she talks about when these guys get this wrong, when our prosecutors and our investigators get it wrong like this. She goes like this. She's like, those kids or that kid or those kids aren't the only victims. Greg isn't the only victim. I'm not the only victim. I mean, she just goes on and on and on, talking about how there's so many victims that got multiplied and multiplied in this because the police department was unwilling to own what it had done. And I thought she was brilliant. So I highly recommend this thing for everybody. I highly recommend everybody go check it out. What I did so that I could watch it, folks, was I just basically signed up for the Showtime free trial. I think I might keep it, or I might just order TV service. I might just break down and order TV service and order one cable box so that I can just get all the apps of the multiple TV channels from having TV service. So I'm thinking I might go that way instead of paying I think it's $10.99 a month after the 30 days is up. I think it's like $10.99 a month. So I'm not sure if I'm going to cancel it for the end of the 30 days and just get a cable box, or if I might just go ahead and pay Showtime directly to be able to watch their content online. But you guys can sign up for the 30-day free trial. And if you don't have the Showtime, app already, you can sign up for the 30-day trial and you can watch Outcry. And you can watch a lot of other stuff. They have there's another one on there I saw, another crime documentary I saw there as I was looking through and looking around on Showtime there. There's another one there I'm intrigued by that I want to watch. So there's some content there that you guys might be interested in. If you have internet, you can go to Showtime. You just type in Showtime in your computer and you go there and you can sign up for a 30-day free trial. You don't have to have a cable box to do that. I'm thinking instead of paying for Showtime and HBO and whatever, a bunch of different ones, I'm thinking about going ahead and getting the cable service, the TV service, so that I can get all of the apps for less price, for less money. I don't mean to confuse everybody, but for those who are always thinking about money and how to get the most for their money, that's the only reason I brought that up. So you have to watch the HBO doc on the Golden State Killer, how a citizen investigator swung that case. To have other viewpoints, you have to read the opinion of the CCA. I know what was read in there. It's like I say, I don't disagree with you, Travis. You're right. There probably is more to be gleaned from reading the actual paperwork. Do you have it? Do you have that document that you're talking about? Because if you have it, send it over. I'll read it. When I get a chance, I'll read it. But basically, I know that every single judge at the Criminal Court of Appeals upheld the innocence claim. So that, or at least that's what it says in the documentary. If the documentary got it wrong, but I absolutely agree with you, Travis. There probably is more to be gleaned if I were to actually read the decision. If I actually had access to it and could read it, you're probably absolutely 100% correct. All right, moving on. So if you can get HBO, show that. See, now I have to get HBO to watch this other one. You know what I mean? It's just like, dude. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I'll be gone in the dark. I think it is. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe I'll do a free trial for HBO as well. Mandy, that's you, right? That's what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm thinking I may just end up getting cable service for one box because I currently don't pay. I pay only for internet. Okay, right now I currently only pay for internet, and my internet's super fast. But it's fiber optic and it's super fast. But anyway, but I'm not paying for TV currently. So what I'm thinking of doing is going ahead and getting TV added to it and paying maybe $40 a month and getting like 15 different apps that I'll then be able to access. So you see, it becomes more cost effective to pay, say, maybe $40 to $70 and getting like 15 different apps of stuff I could watch instead of paying $10 per app. You see that? So that's why I was throwing that out there, so that people could see the math on that, of why I was throwing that out there. So Travis is bringing up the fact who I was talking about earlier, Mr. Bryson, who was a big advocate for Greg Kelly. He got out into the, on YouTube and in the media. He was just, the dude was there, poking the bear all the time. He was there poking the bear. So like I said, I'm going to try to take a page from Mr. Bryson's book. It's part of why I'm headed to Wisconsin. Even like Johnny's doing down, Mr. Ripper is doing, where he was making his trips to Florida, and he's kind of getting up in Carol Baskin and getting all up in her grill, I guess you might say, in a sense. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take a page from Mr. Bryson myself. So, I mean, I'm very, very happy to have watched Outcry. It was very interesting. It's tragic and sad, but it's also very interesting, and it's also very informative. And I think more people should watch it. So being on Showtime, I think there's a good chance that it will be. I wish you could too, Bridget, but if you can't join us, the one thing you can do is help us share the videos and tweets when we're talking about it and trying to get people to come. If you can help us with that kind of stuff, we can use that help as well. We very much need that help also. So I understand I understand there's going to be a great many people that can't actually be there in person, and I do understand that. But help us get as many bodies on the ground as possible by helping us retweet and share and create awareness of what we're doing at the end of October and all the things that we got going on at the end of October. Yes, Bryson definitely was doing well. A lot of those people were also unified by the fact that high school football is just like a religion there in that part of Texas. And so that was another part that I think created a little bit of an ease for Mr. Bryson to be able to create the group of supporters and keep it from getting unruly. I think it's because everybody there had that worship for football, and that kind of kept everybody working in line. I wish I could say that same thing existed in the Avery Dassey cases, but as some of you know right now, it doesn't. It's currently not existing with the Avery Dassey cases. So, they supported Sean against Jana Duty, who was having a lot of problems. Absolutely. Poke the bear. That's what I intend to do, Mandy. I totally intend to poke the bear and get after him. I'm hoping we get a big crowd of, I would like to have at least 50 people out in front of the Capitol. If we could get at least 50, and I know Eagle Nation, with them, I'm feeling like we're going to get most of that. We're going to get a long way to that 50 just with the folks from Eagle Nation coming to protest with us in Madison. So like I say, those of you that are local, that are real close by, that can make it, please do come and give us the bodies on the ground, so Governor Evers can look out his window and go, oh wow, look at all those people. Those of you who know, I was talking to Brandon Maddox this weekend. There's a good chance, maybe a slight chance, that I'll be able to get Brandon there and he can be playing. There's another chance I'm going to be able to get Jamie Hart there. And so I'm hoping that's going to work out. And so we're looking to make a bit of a spectacle of it. And like I said, in Madison, I intend the rally to be started off in a sense by the sound of cycles rolling in before everybody gets parked and starts getting set up for the rally. There'll be the sound of cycles coming in, and at the end when we're leaving, there will be this, hopefully, what I hope for is the sound of cycles rolling out. And I want that sound to become part of the rallies that we have in Wisconsin. To draw in Eagle Nation, to draw in Avery Dassey. And like I said, we're going to continue to draw in more. I want to draw in Ricky Hochstetler. And we can even draw in with the Michael Bell case, those things that are already there in Wisconsin that we can point to. So that's what we're looking to do. And like I said, I'm going to be talking to lots of victims when I'm there in Wisconsin for that week. I'm going to be talking to lots of victims there, folks. You're going to love the video that I'm planning. You're going to love it. For you guys who have been following along and are going to know all the things I'm pointing out in it, you are just going to be like, yes, 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 because I'm going to be calling Wisconsin out on their bull, and it's going to be good. And I mean, even I'm here, like I'm kind of depressed that I have to wait 3 months to make it happen. So I'm doing little things now, like searching down little clips that I need for it. So when I have free time, I'm actually doing that now and finding little clips and things like that I'm going to end up needing for it, putting it in a folder that it'll be ready for me when I eventually sit down to edit it all together when I get home from Wisconsin. It's a big project, and it's more ambitious than anything I've done ever. So it's going to be interesting. But folks, help me create the buzz. Help me create this buzz. If I have any of the qualities that Mr. Bryson has in Outcry, and if I got that kind of juice with you folks, please help me out. Let's help make this very successful. Because like I said, as soon as the international restrictions lift on travel, the HOD's going to be descending, folks. And then he's going to be leading up round 2. And we can continue to get into Wisconsin's face and get into Governor Evers' face. That's what I'm trying to do, folks. And I need your help. I need your guys' help. I'm a humble person. I've always told you guys, I'm just a guy on YouTube talking. And I love you guys. You guys show up to listen to me and all that. Right now, what we need to do is we need to share this. We need to make this a big deal, and we need to get as many people to show up at the end of October in Madison as possible. So please, please help me, folks, because I'm humble enough to admit it. I need your guys' help. This all falls apart if I don't have you guys, the supporters out there, getting behind it and making it real. I'm honest. I can say it. I can try to get it started. I can talk about it, but ultimately it's up to you guys. It's up to you guys. So just, that's my plea to everybody, to please try to give me a hand with this thing coming up in October. The rally itself in Madison is going to be spectacular, but the project that I'm going to be working on and getting the footage for while I'm there, it's going to be also just off the hook. So anything else that anybody wants to talk about before we're done? His family mobilized a group of a couple of hundred supporters. They got the 88 booted in St. Louis. Well, she retired, right? Yes, Ricky Kidd. Travis is referring to there. He's talking about we need a new DA or a new AG in Wisconsin. When do they come up for re-election? Need a new sheriff in Manitowoc. When do they rerun? So I believe it was last year, middle of last year or so, when the elections took place for Wisconsin. Wasn't it? Think about that. Or was that back in 2018? I guess maybe those elections might be coming up at the end of this year. Will you go live for your UK supporters? Paul, I will try. I will definitely. Seeing as I'm going to be there for a week, yeah, there's definitely going to be me going live. I will try to go live from Madison when we're there, best I can. I'm going to be focusing on getting more footage on my GoPro, though, or on. I plan to have several cameras, to be perfectly honest, but on my other cameras, I plan to get a lot of that footage recorded. But I will definitely try to go live from Madison for some amount of time, as long as I can. The last couple of years when I've gone to rally in Wisconsin, I go live, and for whatever reason, somewhere around 10 minutes, my stream turns into a bunch of colored dots on the screen, and you can still hear me, but all you can see in the video is like a bunch of colored. It looks like colored snow on the screen. For those of you who remember old analog TVs that would get snow on them, yeah. So anyway, so yeah, I'll be trying to do that, Paul. I think 2018 his opponent raised Brendan's confession as part of. He did. You're right, Travis. About yes, Wiegert's opponent in 2018 did raise the fact that of Brendan's confession during the race and all that sort of stuff. Also during that race, that opponent of Wiegert continually had problems with his signs that people were putting in their yards continually disappearing and being stolen. Yeah, that was another thing that was going on at the time. So need to find out when that cycle comes up again and raise money for the opponent. So stay tuned, folks, for the planning regarding the upcoming event at the end of October there in Madison. We're also going to be in Neenah doing a rally for Eagle Nation, like the 25th, 26th, basically the first couple of days that I'm there in Wisconsin. So for those that want to come over there and be a part of that too, and be a part of the filming that I'll be doing for the project I'm making, come on over and let's make a big noise. Let's get a lot of attention. We're going to have the local press there. Hopefully, if we make a big enough noise with this, and if you guys really do help me, as I'm asking you, and if you really do help me, and we get this thing shared and talked about and big deal, and we really, really, really talk it up, we may even get a national media outlet there. Maybe we can get just one, that would be awesome. So hopefully that's what we can do. So, all right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, go check out Outcry. It's brilliant. You can get a free trial of Showtime if you want to be able to check it out. It's definitely worth the watch. I was compelled. I literally watched all 5 episodes in a row. I was going to do like a show in between each episode, but I was like, nope, screw that. I was just so compelled that I just want to get to the next one. It's that compelling. It's just like, it's very well done. So. You're still disbelief that Wiegert has final say. Yeah, well, he's if whatever it is being held at his agency, he has the final say. So HBO doesn't let you binge. Well, then you might not be able to do a 30-day trial for HBO, folks. So most of these apps have a 30-day trial, but we'll see. If HBO doesn't, then HBO doesn't. I'm a busy guy and I got lots of things going on, so I can wait if I have to. So, Alrighty, folks. Thank you all for tuning in. It's been very interesting. A lot of fun talking with all of you. And if you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.